we've been brainwashed to think that we need certain types of third spaces when we could just make them.
My curiosity is like how you show up in those spaces as well. Like, are you just waiting for somebody to approach you, or are you making yourself appear approachable?
Why would I spend $15 for a shot when I can
Go buy
a bottle for $15 and drink it at home?
We're waiting for somebody's vibe to be right before we talk. Or even though it's like, how's the vibe going to be right if we're all silent?
Oof. A word.
I don't know. Would we schedule our time to go out to eat?
No.
I don't think so. This is Sistas Declassified, the podcast where Taylor and Taryn, your virtual sisters, share experiences, insights, and of course the juicy secrets that never leave the sister circle. So shh, listen up. The Declassified convos are starting now.
Welcome back to Sistas Declassified. We're the real life sisters who started a podcast instead of going shopping.
Before we get started, we'd like to remind you to subscribe to our platforms at Sistas Declassified on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
We're really everywhere. I love it.
Anyway.
Okay, so jumping right in, based on a conversation I had with my cousins a few weeks ago, it dawned on me, like in this conversation, that we are missing something, or we think we're missing something. Okay. So my younger cousins were talking about going out. It was after a family function. They didn't really want to go out, but they're all single, ready to mingle, and they feel like they need to be out on the town because they're single, you know? And I was thinking back, like, I used to feel obligated to go out when I was single because I'm single.
But what else do you do?
Yeah, and like, what else do you do? And where else can you meet people? And it just got me thinking about, like, where else can you go if you can't go to Bella Noche's? Sorry. You seen that? You know what video I'm talking about?
I do, yes.
She's so over me. Anyways, it got me just thinking about, like, we don't have anywhere to go. That was my original thought. But I think my actual declassified moment is that we've been brainwashed to think that we need certain types of third spaces, like, when we could just make them.
Yeah.
And so, like, the dating conversation brought me there because it's like, where else do you meet people? You could meet someone at work, but that could be tough because, like, you don't want to,
blur the lines.
Yeah, you don't want to blur the lines, make things complicated, or bring drama to work, although I am not a good example of that.
She's married to her coworker. Awkward.
It's not awkward.
It's not. It's fine. It used to be awkward, though.
Right. But I wouldn't, you wouldn't normally advise that.
Right.
But I think it brought a larger question, just like, where can you go to meet people? And why do we, or many of us millennials, feel like we don't have places to go, period?
And I think part of that issue is just like, people used to spend a lot of time at church, I think. Especially, I could be wrong, but I know the Black community that I grew up with and around, like, we spent time at church a lot, and that was a big third space, and that's where people would be told to find their partners, right? Is at church, and that's the big community that you have. That those are the people you reach out to when you need something, all that good stuff. I know, like, people used to go to, like, pool halls,
or like rec centers. Oh, like, where do you go in the winter? No. These are all like kind of summery activities. No?
A pool hall?
Oh, I was thinking a swimming pool.
Oh, no. I'm thinking like a
like
pool
billiards.
Hall, like billiards. Yeah. Or like, I don't know. I think boys have like going to play basketball, like
going to the gym.
Going to the gym, which girls have that too. Don't get me wrong, that people will go and have like their gym partner, friend. But that's not really a third space to go and meet other people, I feel like you will when you're playing basketball because you have to, like, you want a 5-on-5 or whatever the case may be. But if you go to the gym with your girls, like, that doesn't mean that you're going to talk to the other girls at the gym. You might, but it's not what people are going there to do.
Right. It's not necessarily like a social space in that way. You can be social with like who you came with.
Right. And so I guess it goes back to that question or that topic of like, can any place be a third space? Like, can you start hosting events at the park and getting people to come?
You could. And as you were talking, like, it got me thinking really about, I'm always thinking about money. Because I think like part of the problem, like part of why, well, part of why people don't go to the club at 30 is because they're done with it, but also because it costs money.
Mm-hmm.
I was just somewhere yesterday where they're like, why would I spend $15 for a shot when I can
go buy
a bottle for $15 and drink it at home?
I was just talking to this, there's this older Asian man that's at my job, and he's like maybe 50. And he said the same thing. He's like, I wanted to buy some food the other day, and it was like $20 for my meal.
And you're like, yeah, that's what it costs these
It's like,
days.
there's no way. And at a restaurant, you know how much it is to buy some wine? A glass is $13. And I was like, yes, you're right. It's really expensive. But it's just not your priority also. Because it's not that you can't afford to do it. It's just that now I want a house, or now I want a new car, or now I want these things, start a family, whatever the case may be. So I'm not going to use my money on that. But in terms of like a third space, I think part of our challenge now is that we think we need to spend money to have a third space, and we don't. Like, I think you could be hosting events, because the idea about community, or the reason why church worked, is, right, you have this collective belief system and you all go there to do that thing. So I feel like people are more isolated in what their interests are. Maybe they don't have interests. And so then they don't have the communities or the spaces to then show up and connect with people. Because, like, for example, somebody started a run club at the lake. Yeah. And they go and it's gotten pretty big. And it's all people who like to run, and they can show up and do that. But then you also might make friends and learn that you have other things in common. And so that's not the gym, right? And then this is a person who likes to run, and then they created something for other people to come to who also like to run. So maybe it's like, do you know yourself and the things that you enjoy? And can you actively speak on the fact that you like those things and get other people to come like them with you? I don't know.
Yeah, I think, yes, anyone can start an activity or an activity group and potentially do it for free or low cost. I don't know that everyone has the skill set or like views themselves as a community connector in that way. I think sometimes it can be challenging to invite people to things.
Yeah, you don't want people to not show up.
Yeah.
And you don't think your thing is, sorry to cut you off, or you like don't think your thing is valuable if only 2 people come.
Right. Like, I think we have, you asked if we have interests or hobbies. I think many people, whether they acknowledge it or not, their hobby is watching other people live their lives. And so it can be challenging to then step into the real world and create your own space that people might want to watch online, like doing an activity together, when it's so much easier to just watch someone do a run club than it is to go do a run club with a group. And I think going back to like, it doesn't have to be expensive. I think people used to have gatherings at their homes more often, but less of us have spaces we feel like we can invite people to.
Right. It doesn't have the aesthetic, or we're not at that point in our life where we feel people should come to this space because this isn't a cool. Yeah. Or like you can't fake it. You can't front. Like you got it if you have people in your house and you don't got it. But it doesn't really matter. Like,
I mean, it's not always about having it either, though. Like, I think about like where I live, for example. I think part of why I don't invite
space. That's it. And space.
Yes, space is part of it. Part of why I don't invite people over is, one, because I'd have to be mindful of how many. So I'd have to like think about the configuration of people because I can only have so many. But 2, parking at my apartment is terrible. And so I feel like I'm almost inconveniencing people by inviting them to this space, and the first thing they have to deal with is not being
like they're going to be annoyed as soon as
like I'm inconveniencing you by inviting you. And most of my friends don't live near me either, so now you're driving 30 minutes and now you can't even park.
Right.
And so I think that's part of why I don't invite people over. But even when I was younger, I felt like I couldn't invite people over because I felt like my friends had bigger houses, or my teammates, specifically my gymnastics teammates, had bigger houses and cool and pools and things to do, and we just had our little thing. And now I realize how silly that was. But
it's comparison, right? Thief of joy.
So one of the things we talked about was like prioritization when we talked about money and like how much a drink costs at home versus buying it at the bar. But I think our energy is also something we have to consider when we're thinking about who establishes these spaces or builds the community, because it takes energy. It's a lot easier to join something than it is to create something. And folks might have an idea of a third space or a community that they wish they could be a part of in a physical space. Because I think people can find them digitally and are more inclined to find them digitally now. But I think sometimes we discount how, I guess, the instant gratification of the online space and instant connection of text messages and things have made us lazy.
Oh, for sure. I definitely think, like, I get so annoyed when the men in our family like to call us lazy. Not us, but like the generation of people. But it's not, to an extent, they're not necessarily wrong, but I think we just don't realize it in certain ways. Because we are doing a lot of things. We're just doing things so differently that and in a more simple way. I think we can do things a lot faster, more efficiently. And so it's not that we're lazy per se, but when we do have to do this thing like coordinating an event or coordinating a space where people can come, that does take a lot more effort that maybe we don't want to, because we're so used to doing something like quickly and efficiently.
Right. Like, why are we having a meeting? This could be an email.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So basically we kind of run away from the connection, even though maybe.
And I think it's like a double-edged sword. We run away from it because it's an input. And we have so many inputs we receive now that previous generations did not receive in the same way because of all the instant communication, instant information, right? Like, we are not as selective with our inputs all the time. And so we don't think about how that like affects our energy and ultimately keeps us from doing things that we probably would want to do if we prioritize keeping capacity for it, or we're more intentional about like not draining ourselves with other things, I guess.
And I think also how you're showing up in the spaces, because like going back to what you're saying about like trying to find a partner or a friend or whatever at the club, which I know we've all had the rhetoric of like the club is just not the place where you do either of those things really. You might come across a friend, but you never know.
The girls' bathroom is popping.
You're right. The girls' bathroom is definitely a place to be. I lost my train of thought. But basically what I was trying to say was, what did you say? I guess my curiosity is like how you show up in those spaces as well. Like, are you just waiting for somebody to approach you, or are you making yourself appear approachable? Like, are you going and mingling also? Or like, are you dancing or are you on your phone? Like, there's just so many things that you could ask that would make it seem like you're also uninterested in making connections while you're in these places.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to, are you being intentional in your behaviors in those spaces?
Or you just think, okay, I can show up and be cute and it's going to fall in my lap.
Place it's supposed to fall in my lap.
Yeah.
Because intentionality is important, because you can meet your partner anywhere, from the grocery store, even Tinder. I have a friend who is happily married. Her and her husband met on Tinder. They've been married for the last, 6-7 years. Beautiful family, 2 children, living the life. But it's because they were intentional, even on Tinder.
Yeah. Which I know people do feel like they are being intentional and it's like still not working out. So obviously everything is,
it's got a line,
case by case. But just something to think about when we're talking about these third places no longer existing, or these places where people can show up and connect. And part of that is because we are not showing up being willing to connect. We're waiting for somebody's vibe to be right before we talk, or even though it's like, how's the vibe going to be right if we're all silent? I guess that's kind of my main question. Yeah. How can the vibes be off if you're all just showing up and don't want to talk and everybody's anxious and everyone's uncomfortable?
That reminds me of my 10-year, now a few years ago, high school reunion, where like after talking to several people, everyone had anxiety and was nervous about coming to this because no one really wanted to talk. No one wanted to not be remembered, right? And go up to talk to someone and they're like, who are you? Everybody, had their little thing that they were anxious about. And it just made you realize we all just sitting here in our own little heads, making up our own little stories. Well, we really could just be talking to each other and not be worried about any of the nonsense we got going on in our heads.
Right. People are, we're all balls of anxiety, like you're saying. And it's such a disservice to ourselves, because I think we could probably have such fruitful relationships with people if we put ourselves out there more. And that's the same that you're saying. Putting yourself out there could also be not being great at hosting events, but you just do it anyway. and you learn to get better because you keep doing it. Like I feel like we all used to be willing to um make a fool of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that changed. I guess when people started
Cell
recording,
phones.
right?
I was like,
People started
cell
recording
phones.
everything, so you can't make a mistake without like everyone else knowing that you did.
Oh, we're all a personal brand, guys. We're all out here on front stage, whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm. But then I guess also I think at the end of the day, because we are in a weird space where our what we thought would be our lives at this big age that we're at, we've decided that we shouldn't be trying to find the fun. We should be trying to find the funds. And so we don't put all of our effort into making these connections in community and having additional third spaces. Like, it's like, actually, we probably should be isolating because we haven't met our goals.
I should be hustling because I haven't made it to that benchmark yet. I can't invite people over yet because my house isn't aesthetic enough. I haven't bought that furniture yet.
Exactly. All the things. And so I think that makes it like we shouldn't, hanging out with people should not be what we're worried about right now.
Right. Because we ain't got the funds we think we need to have access to the third spaces we think we belong in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oof. A word.
But I think I'm like, we're saying all that to say, I would love to create a third space. And I feel like I've been seeing more people putting in effort, even if it's not a permanent third space, but just like hosting an event.
Mm-hmm.
Or trying to have a group trip or whatever the thing is, retreats. And
I will say my fear of rejection is triggered by this. I don't know. I must have had a birthday party or something at a young age where like I thought enough people didn't come or so. Like it has to be from somewhere. I got to figure that out. But
yeah, I'm not sure because I mean, most of our birthday parties until you were like 16 were together.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember it that way, but you know,
we'll ask Mom when she gets home. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It could be a fear of rejection thing. I think it definitely is. You're like, who's gonna show up to my thing? Who cares about what I have to say to show up?
Yeah.
And I think everybody has that. I don't think you necessarily have to have had a party where no one came to feel like people won't come to your next event.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think we all have a little bit of that feeling, but some people are just more like, whatever, I'm going to do it anyway because whatever the goal was more important than like whether there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, and I guess that's why it's important to have a third space that you legitimately care about or are interested in, and you're not just in it or going to it because you feel obligated to. Like I felt obligated to go to the club because I was single. Mm-hmm. It wasn't enjoyable.
But I think it could be okay that it was some sort of obligation, right? Because I think people go to church because they feel obligated to worship God on that specific day or whatever. Okay. And to connect. And maybe that obligation it's not a bad thing. Like they have that obligation because it fuels their spirit. So
okay, so there are pros and cons to obligations.
Mm-hmm.
We won't make it so black and white.
Yeah.
I really like that. We shouldn't be trying to find the fun. We should be trying to find the funds. Although I already live there, so I should try to be finding a little more fun, a little more joy in my life.
Yeah, I think that would be good for you on the flip side. Maybe people thinking about which side of the spectrum they lean more to. Are you trying to find more fun or are you trying to find more funds? And does that impact how you show up and whether you have other spaces to go besides work and home and to see your family? Do you also have places where you can go where you feel like you can meet people and connect and grow new friendships, relationships?
Wait, so these are Sister Circles questions?
Are they?
Yes, let's.
Okay.
So tell us in the comments, what is your favorite third space, or what's a third space you wish existed that you might want to create?
And I think one of the other things is, do you have the funds for your third space? Because I think we do have third spaces, like I go to pottery or Pilates or whatever. And while maybe I don't go there to make friends, you could easily make a community there of like-minded individuals, but they're expensive. So like maybe it's not something you can maintain all the time. So yeah, is it the issue that there's not third spaces, or is the issue that we can't afford them?
And if you have any free third spaces, let us know about those too, because we are definitely interested in that. And my gears are turning as I'm thinking about my birthday coming up and like what I want to do to celebrate. I think about like activities that I enjoy doing, like might be work to people, but like the look on your face. Like talking about money goals and helping people with like
Like a
thinking about their
financial
dreams.
literacy or
I don't
something?
know. I haven't thought about the idea fully, but I think like I enjoy doing professional and personal development type stuff. And like, I don't go to those spaces enough, but I could use my birthday as an excuse to get people to come do it with me, for
Mhm.
example. I don't know. Let me know about the free spaces. That's what I need to know.
Yes. But again, thanks for watching. And remember that you could find us at Sistas Declassified on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Bye.